And I even managed to squeeze the tweet out. I am so good. So smooth. Welcome, one, and welcome all. Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, I guess, for you rotten people over in Europe. I don't know where I'm going with this. This is the Go for StarCraft monthly finals. They're all best of 3s today, except for the finals, which I believe is a guaranteed best of 5. For now, though, spawning the top left corner of the map in this first match of the day from Vega Squadron, ladies and gentlemen, the Yellow Zerg player, Revolver.
In upper right, as the purple Terran, it is Goody.
So just a real quick thing before we go today, guys. I know there's a bit of delay and working around this is never fun. One of the things I'm going to ask you guys is I didn't have time to do audio tests with Zombie Grub before the stream went live. So if you guys see or hear anything wrong, let us know in chat. Granted, there's a bit of a 2-minute delay, so things won't be adjusted immediately, but I will do my best to make sure everything sounds okay. I've put them at the settings I think they normally are. That's the problem when I do streams in between streams, that I have to change settings around, and it's kind of... But actually, interestingly enough, the last time I think we streamed Revolver, or actually I think I was solo casting that day, but the last time we saw Revolver on Base Rate TV, it was when MMA lifted to the gold and punished him in one of the Go for StarCraft Monday Cups.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think that was
I'm
probably
sure it
the solo
happened.
day. Of course, I'm going to remember the liftoff to the golds, because I freak out every time someone does it. It's like,
Yes, you
oh
do.
my god, yes, yes!
Well, Revolver's, I was gonna go for a pool first. It wasn't a fast pool or anything like that, but he's gonna have Lynx and a Queen, surprisingly fast, but he goes for a Reaper, which he's not, actually good. He's gonna go for a 1-Rax Expand, Wings Liberty style.
Right, but this is kind of goody for you. Like, he can do the Reapers, but you always see him kind of stay away from it. And on a map like Habitation Station, it makes even more sense. Again, it's just a terrible map for Reapers in general. But, you know, I wish they had left some maps in the map pool, like Polar Night and such. This sounds a bit silly to say, but to explain my thoughts a little bit further, is it as stupid and broken in many different perspectives as Polar Night was. Goody had some of the coolest strategies there, where he would like proxy tanks behind the Nitral, things like that. Things you can't really do on these more standardized maps like Habitation Station. And granted, it's cheese, but it's still that extra element to the game that you just kind of take away from players who have that, I guess, that special niche for weird builds. And Goody, we all know him to be a mech player. Some of you may see that as boring, some of you may see it as standard, but I'm a little sad that he doesn't have the opportunity to do something like that here on Habitation Station.
Nothing really in the new map pool, unfortunately. I don't know, I think they restricted themselves a lot by just saying that we needed all new maps rather than, you know, realizing the problem was pretty much Blinkstalker all-ins. So, you know, gotta fix that one.
That, and is it just me? I was talking with somebody about this. Like, all these maps now just feel like way too big. Like, it's like was it Merry-Go-Round's like the smallest map, but even then, that's still a big map, you know?
Really? I don't think, actually, there was some guy made like a post on Reddit and he was like, you know, okay, we get it, like short maps are out of style or whatever, like was his third title. And he like pretty much complained that the new maps are too big. And everyone responded with, no, I actually like the new map pool. It was like the kind, like not the kindest. It was the most positive Reddit thread I've ever seen on StarCraft.
I wouldn't say I hate the big maps, but I mean, again, like, we just went through this series where we had things like Daedalus Point, these incredibly short, scrunched up rush distance maps, and they take it to this giant dynamic of basically throwing a bunch of whirlwinds at our face.
I don't really think they're that big.
You don't think Waystation's big, especially like top left, bottom right? You don't
Top
think
of bottom right is pretty big.
You don't think King Sejong's pretty big? I mean, granted, King Sejong's and these are 2-player spawn maps, but they're still pretty big for 2-player spawn maps.
I don't really think so. But you know, whatever.
I don't remember the original point I was going to go off of this now. We're going to so off track with it. But my bottom line was, coming back to this, Habitation Station, I'm glad it survived in the map pool. This was the one, despite its golds and despite the sneers that people had about like this map could possibly breaking the game because they brought golds back, it's actually been one of the most favored maps. This and Frost, back to back.
Oh. I thought Revolver might go for really fast mutas, and I was kind of excited because that's... I mean, it's not exactly a hard counter to what Goody is doing, but it's like the hardest counter you'd find in a TVZ.
Yeah, Hellion Banshee's...
Oh, yes. Okay, good.
Hellion Banshee's an interesting thing, because, yeah, first off, nothing's going to shoot up, but this also means your Thors will be delayed, your Armory will be late.
Right, and we know that Goody goes mech, and so does Revolver.
There's no engineering bay. This is going to actually be pretty rough.
Yeah. So the best chance that he has is scouting it, obviously. So unfortunately, you don't throw down a scan unless you really think something's up. And by not seeing a third, that could very well tell Goody to go ahead and scan the main.
Is
Other possibility is that you like get there as the Banshee goes in, and you have like just enough time. But actually,
well,
that's fire was started too early.
well, two base Mutalisks. I mean, honestly, outside of like Nurchio and other rare circumstances, there's not a lot of people who can pull this off too effectively. So for Revolver to do this, I'm not saying he's too bad to make it work, but he does have to be careful, because the big problem with going two base Mutalisks is while you kind of hit this timing where your opponent doesn't have a lot of anti-air, if you miss control, if you fly over top of Widow Mines, if you lose too much too early, you've invested a lot into a build that is going to cost you a lot in the end.
It looks like Goody is well recognized that this is a build that he could have trouble with, so he throws down not only Engineering Bay, but also some Widow Mines. Believe it or not, that Viking is going to help out as long as it stays near other anti-air. It can really help out against the low number of Mutalisk. And he's going to have enough time to buy Thor, or buy enough time to have Thors.
I like the Widow Mines, actually. You don't see these usually come out too early. But again, it's that sort of safety thing where they're guaranteed to kill two. Oftentimes when you do go for this two-base Mutalisk build, you don't have an Overseer coming with those first 6 Mutalisks.
Yeah, need every bit of gas that you can just for the Mutalisk, so
Yeah.
this is good for Goody. I mean, it usually doesn't end the game, but it would have done so much damage that
I've seen this just straight up end games though before.
Yeah.
Goody is prepared though. Turrets come down on the sides and the edges, not in the mineral lines, which is going to mean he can't really repair them too effectively. But again, it's a lower amount of Mutalisks. It's not a huge flock that he has to worry about fighting off. In fact, that turret, right? Jeez.
So yeah, he didn't really expect to see them as turret out there. Yeah, there's just really good defense by Goody so far. Again, it's such low numbers when you do two base mutas that's all you really need. Viking, some turrets, and you're good until you get Thors.
These Hellions are going to get picked off. Not that they were getting a lot done either. He did, it's kind of sad to see too. You go for those earlier 4 Hellions, but you don't like do any creep damage. You don't suicide for drone kills. I mean, he really didn't do anything with those Hellions.
No, that's one thing that we're not really highlighting about the two base muta. Well, it's been effectively like not shut down, but it didn't do the damage that it could have done. It still gives you map control. A mech player still feels very like walled in against a player who's going for mutas, and of course he sets himself up for the transition in a swarm host later.
Swarm hosts on this map have always been a little bit loved. This is one of those ones where you can hit pretty much every base from one location, but again, it's hard to make the decision to go into Swarm House against somebody who's open with Siege Tanks. If they open with Thors and Hellbats, sometimes you go with that as a choice because you bank on them having low accounts or lower amounts to actually deal with the Locust Waves. But with Goody already having Siege Tanks set up, and his style of play is different than that of most mech players, where rather than desperately trying to take a third early on and fortifying it, he'll wait till he's maxed out, then expand.
Well, he only has 2 tanks. I wouldn't really say that's a reason not to go Swarm Host. The idea is that they overreact to the mutas. They only switch into Thors and Hellbats and only have 2 tanks.
Yeah, that would actually be cool if that was the intention of this, more so than dealing damage here in the early game. Just to try and bait out the wrong composition.
Yeah. Which, I mean, he's setting himself up to get pretty much everything. It looks like he's going to stick with Roach Hydra right now and get up to Vipers, but of course later on he has an invitation that he can go into Swarm Hosts, but probably more looking just to abuse Blinding Cloud or Pulse.
I like the extra turrets coming down right now. These are usually mineral investments in Hellions, but recognizing that he's not really going to be able to use them, it's just slowly making Hellbats, but instead investing in a lot of anti-air at the same time.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Revolver, I mean, he's taking a 4th base, but I'm surprised he didn't double expand.
We got these 2 Hellions down here in the bottom right. I don't know if you've experienced this. I've seen this a lot, like, on the odd like Zotac, but never really in like the best of 5s of finals or anything. But I've seen players starting to take like the other side of the map 5th bases, like for Revolver to take the base where Goody's Hellions currently are.
Oh yeah, well I've seen that a few times when it does become that when it looks inevitable that's going to be the split map scenario.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I like about that too is if you get away with it early enough, you can actually mine from this base. It's not that you've just like denied a base of your opponent, but you've actually actively stolen their money too, going towards the end game. But Goody's got that 3rd base established. This is kind of, for a mech player, their comfort zone. You're not necessarily going to win off of 3 bases, but you're probably not going to lose too fast off of them either. It really comes down to the 4th and 5th much later on in the game. And as stated before, Goody plays a much slower turtley style of mech where he'll wait and he'll eventually get that base up, but he's not going to rush it.
Yeah. I think Revolver is really looking forward to not playing a 50-minute long game, though. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people go into the match versus Goody and say, I hope this doesn't happen, but not always going to be the case. For those who don't know as well, by the way, Goody is classically known for his very long games, not just because of his mech style, but just due to his defensive play style. I've seen him play bio and actually win games as well, but obviously mech is what he does in the most popular and most frequent basis. Anyways, I like the constant missile turrets. It's not about the Mutalisks at this point, guys, but it's also about zoning out the Vipers. With these Vikings and the missile turrets up, you're not going to see Vipers dive in to go for blinding clouds anytime soon. Not without the risk of getting picked off here. Uno's going to get a pretty decent hit, but the Hellbat's on the wrong side of these tanks. Tanks are pretty spread out, but the Thor's also been kind of useless. That AI, though, he's got to actually focus fire down the Mutalisks. Going to let the Vikings do that. The Hydra's still pushing forward, but there's just too many tanks left. These Vipers, I feel the Blinding Clouds were like way too late on that attack. What was that?
Yeah, what was up with that? Maybe thinking that
he loses the Vipers.
Maybe thinking the Vikings would go down faster, so the Vipers could get in.
Alright, this was the tutorial. No, hang on. This was Good Guy Revolver showing us the tutorial on how to lose effectively your entire army in a matter of seconds against the mech player. And it wasn't that he was making a bad decision. He was just trying to show you kids what not to do so that no one would mimic that in the future. That's the positive spin.
What a good guy. Now, after a fight like that, some mech players might decide to push out because you just took down an entire army. Not Goody.
No. Well, you know what? I don't think it's not even that's just Goody playing defensively. That's actually kind of a smart move, though, because you did lose quite a few tanks. You don't know what's coming up, and the worst thing you can do as a mech player is get caught unsieged in the middle of the map, especially when there's possibly Vipers lurking about. Granted, he did kill 3, but he doesn't know that there's not more behind this just yet.
I don't think he actually killed that many tanks. My unit's lost tab doesn't actually work, so that's cool.
Oh, you're right. He only killed 2. I thought that was way more.
Yeah, it was mostly the Thors and the Hellbats in front.
Well, I mean, the point still stands though. Like, you don't want to get caught unsieged, no matter where it is, at home, across the map, and especially in the middle of the field.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
and you know, yeah, he's mostly Hydras. I mean, he kept producing Hydras after that, so his roach count. Oh, okay, there we go. 14 more. He needs something to buffer, as we always say. But now he doesn't have Vipers either.
Yeah, you know, who was it we watched? Firecake versus Avilo. I really like the way Firecake used his Vipers in that series. For those who didn't watch it, it wasn't the super drawn-out series that you might think it would have been, but rather than using Blinding Clouds, he was just abusing constant, relentless abducts to pick off siege tanks, and it was a slow bleed-out. Oh, hey, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, by the way. The gold base being taken at Goody's gold. But I really like the way Firecake did that, because you could go in and you die with the Blinding Clouds, but those only last for so long. The second the Blinding Clouds wear off, if there's 2 main tanks left, your army dies, bottom line. There's no retreating from that. But if you can guarantee pick off 5 tanks for nothing over the course of like 30 seconds, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to use Vipers, but I'm loving the abducts that we're starting to see come out more and more against Terran. Because it's classically against Colossus only you really ever see abducts come down.
That's funny, there's a tank over there dishing out damage.
Yeah, the cliff edge.
That's a pretty cool idea. So Revolver is sticking on this Roach Hydra composition, which isn't exactly bad, but it really had a very strong timing with those Vipers, and then now it's going to be very comfortable for Goody. As you can see, he just keeps expanding, and he's now producing nothing but tanks. He has a good Viking count in case there is a Muta switch. But I mean, there's a reason that a lot more Zerg players are doing, like, not Roach Hydra, doing the Muta, Swarmhost Muta. This is just such a normal, like, kind of easy style.
I like how much Revolver's trying to deny Goody's bases, but I feel like he's getting very impatient. Right now, he should just be keeping these units alive. There's no reason to dive into that tank line. And the thing is, as Goody expands more, it's going to be more area he has to cover, which means more opportunities for Revolver to catch him off guard. This is not a mistake, guys. He's intentionally sacrificing supplies so he can get a bigger army value out of it.
Yeah, going down to 57 SCVs is still pretty good.
Yeah, well, especially when you got a ton of orbitals out, too.
Yeah, that orbital, not even a planetary, but it still does its job. It stops him from actually rushing in
Look at this.
Kind of concave.
It can't actually hurt the Roach. The regen's too strong. The Roach physically doesn't take damage.
That's funny. Whoa, 32 drones!
For Revolver, this is probably going to be for static defense, I would imagine.
Like, yeah, I mean, he's up to 100, it's gotta be.
Yeah, there's no reason to have 100 at this point. But, this is... Okay, so this is the thing, right? This is when Goody's going to start having holes in his defense so far. He's had a solid defense in this tank line here in the middle of the map. There's just nothing that can push through or past this. But now they've got all these extra bases to defend. Things like roaches on hold position with an overlord to give them high ground vision, hydras on hold position to give high ground vision, sniping off SCVs, abducting here and there. The problem that gets really worrying for Revolver is now we see 3 Ravens in production. And we've all heard players complain about how Ravens are the ultimate endgame for Terran. I would disagree, by the way, saying like, while they are incredibly strong, Ravens clump, a good fungal or two, you can really deal with them. But for the most part, if Goody's able to get that Raven count up to, say, in the 10s, much less 20s, this game might just end up already being over. Because Revolver might not react to that properly.
We've seen it time and time again. I mean, we casted that one, like, WCSNA, a Villo versus someone, and then Zerg never got Infestors.
Right? It's just, Infestors aren't as good as they used to be, so you see a lot of people kind of shy away from them, but I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter what league you are, guys. If you go into a game and you see this many Vikings, or not Vikings, rather, well, combination Vikings and Ravens later on, the answer is not going to be go for Corruptors. Don't make Mutalisks. It's just get a fungal or two off. They don't have a lot of HP, and while fungal growth doesn't do a ton, it'll still cripple these.
Yeah.
But whether that ends up being the hard counter or not that Revolver goes for, we have to say. Now, we did see, actually, I didn't bring this up before, but Ventral Sacs, rather, was kind of a cool idea. I think dropping the main could be devastating if there wasn't this turret ring up, right?
He could probably still get in there as long as he goes into the south, not where there's like a bajillion missile turrets.
I almost feel like a Nidus Storm would be more effective though on the back end.
You know, the natural is also not really defended. He could, you know, this is like requiring some like severe like planning ahead right now by like scouting it out. But if he went through the natural into the main, he would actually be perfectly okay.
No, look at this. Look at Revolver's vision. He's not seen the extra turrets come down.
Oh no.
He only sees 2 turrets in Goody's base.
I mean, like okay, 1 or 2 overlords will definitely die, but you know, he has a couple that aren't even filled at the front, so hopefully nothing severe.
Goody's already repositioning though. So he saw this coming from a mile away thanks to that Banshee, that Scout. A lot of these are going to go down. This will really supply block Revolver too. He's already getting supply blocked, in fact. But Ravens can throw down Seeker missiles as we see it happening here. Oh no, the Hydras are clumped. Oh, and things just get shredded. Now there's only a couple roaches up there. If we're going to be honest, guys, unsieged tanks, Thors, maybe a factory will go down. Maybe a tech lab or 2 will get picked off. But for the most part, Goody's set.
20 more overlords on the production tab.
Look at the supply cap right now, 52. Like, why did he leave these here? Was he planning to evacuate later? I don't think so. He should just pull the overlords back. 25 overlords in production. And what's sad is that's necessary.
Yeah, he actually was almost perfect.
Yeah, I know, he missed it by like 1 or 2.
Oh, 38 more Mutalisks though.
Oh, this is
Transitions are powerful, but honestly, Goody's gotten to a point where they're not really that powerful anymore. He has gotten to the ultimate endgame that can take care of most of everything. I mean, the only thing he has to worry about is the Muta's immediately attacking that main that no longer has missile turrets. That is the one thing he's got to be worried about. It's probably what Revolver's going to try and do.
There's a couple different ways to deal with these as well. First off, you can land a Seeker missile out, like 3 Seeker missiles on a couple Mutalisks, that flock is gonna die. But on top of this, he can throw into point defense drones. He's got the Thors, these Vikings, which are on 3-1, will actually deal a ton of damage to these.
Oh, we're about to see what's gonna happen.
Seekers are gonna come down. Oh, but the Mutalisks being flown into the Ravens with the Seekers. This is such a smart move out of Revolver, and he gets some really good hits off. That's how you start turning this game around. Those dives were magnificent. But the Mutalisk count is, well, not high enough to finish this off. But that was good damage.
Was such a cool flippin' idea, and it actually kind of worked out the first time. The problem is that the control wasn't precise enough. Like, I don't know who actually would have precise enough control. It'd be really difficult if you weren't practicing it every single day. But to also not clump them up for the splash to the Thors, and that's what happened, right? Like,
that was cool, yeah.
Yeah, like, cool idea. By the way, Thors are there though. Kind of sucked.
Holy F, that's 39 more Mutals that were made behind this. Revolver had this crazy bank, but he just exhausted it. This is a crazy dedication, but look what Goody made as a response to this. He's already got 3 more Thors pumping out. Turrets have been reestablished in a big way. This main base is in no real threat.
Well, and he canceled one. His gold, I suppose.
Well, no, he canceled one to move the tank over. Actually, that was pretty cool. Oh, but oh my god, the turrets. The turrets
are actually dealing so much damage.
Normally, this is like a joke to watch, and the Thor volley or 2 gets mixed in here as well. And for Goody, again, like,
no.
Oh, that stings a little bit. Just a little bit. 64 Mutals have gone down, and these have all been within the last, like, 2 minutes of the game. But anyways, I like that. He canceled the turrets to get the siege tank over here to shoot the hatchery again. That's kind of a cute move.
Nice vision. Yeah, that was pretty cool. The Muta is no longer a way to go, I feel.
It's, yeah, the power of tech swaps is one thing, but, you know, I almost fear that if Goody didn't have this turret ring down, if it was just Thor's, magic boxing these mutas would actually end up working.
Yeah,
but there's so many turrets everywhere.
Everywhere. That's also what the Vikings are for. More like, we used to see them never make Vikings unless they thought Broodlords are coming. But more and more we saw Vikings immediately being produced, like starting at the 10-minute mark. And I was always like, why? Well, because muta transitions are so powerful, and you sometimes need that extra bit of like constant DPS to help out the Thors that kind of easily get magic boxed. And of course, the Ravens are helping out as well for Goody right now.
I love, by the way, that we are coming up on 30 minutes, and no Enduring Locust nor Swarm Hosts have been researched or made so far this game.
The reason that's so powerful is because you have to make more tanks than anything else to deal with the Swarm Host, and you can also, like, it's literally free units. Like, you don't have to trade as badly as Revolver is doing.
Right,
and it's lost twice the amount for Revolver.
Yeah. But the other thing about Swarm Hosts, too, is it forces you to keep units in a certain location. You don't need a lot of Swarm Hosts, but even something like 4 or 5 of them can keep more than 7 or 8 tanks, say, guarding the 4th. That takes away so much more from the north than you storm in with Hydras, Roaches, more Swarm Hosts. It's a mechanic that doesn't need to be abused the way we see Stefano do it, but it is an important part of the matchup, and you can't ignore it.
Yeah, just imagine, guys, 10 Swarm Hosts in the northern position while he's attacking this southern one. That is already so much better than what he's doing right now, which Goody is honestly looking like he has no trouble dealing with.
Well, we're gonna try Magic Box on top of this. That is a lot of Mutalisks and a lot of DPS. Vikings a little too close to the fight, unfortunately. And this is like the one area there's not a lot of turrets. But here we go.
Sweet spot, but the Ravens coming in as well. Those won't hit, luckily for the mutas.
So again, this is one of those things where if Goody had to focus his attention elsewhere, these sort of surprise attacks would be more frequent. He would catch Goody off guard in more and more situations, but this is gonna be nasty. Oh, that one volley! That one volley on these Mutalisks that only have level 2 Carapace upgrades. Oh my god.
Please no. I'm not even cheering for either one of these players, honestly, but just like, I just feel the pain of both of them when some bad things happen.
Right? Like, it's just... more volleys gonna go off, and a lot of Mutalisks do get picked off. Now, the Mutalisk count itself is at about 53 right now, guys. It's, again, I feel too much dedicated to the wrong unit, so to speak. Revolver's never going to be able to fight head-on because of the Ravens. Granted, we saw that really cool dive move last time, but that's not something easy to pull off. It looks like it looks simple, it looks easy, but if it was, we'd see Zerg players doing it all the time. These turrets going to go down, but they will pick off a good chunk of these Mutalisks before doing so.
They have all the upgrades. They're dealing so much damage. He's on top of the production, though. I mean, there we go. Finally getting down like a factory. He can add... No, he's just gonna run away.
I feel like Goody... Okay, we watched this in Starbow at the time. Like, you know how we see the Vultures place the Widow Mines, or the Spider Mines behind the Dragoons? I kind of want to see that happen here with the... Oh, those hits! I want to see, like, Ravens... Out. I want to see Ravens go around the back end. Try and, like, predict the pathing where the Mutalisks will retreat to, and throw the Secret Missiles so they have to either retreat into them, or they fight into them, you know?
That would be sick good if Ravens weren't, like, kind of slow. Like, that would be so hard to set up.
But this was that one rare situation where you knew he was going to fly to the top right corner of the base, right?
Like, right now?
Exactly. Like, you can predict this pathing somewhat. But there are some Secret Missiles coming down. These will try and suicide into the army once again. Goody's Secret Missiles being used against him. Didn't quite get the big hits they did last time, though. And the Thors...
Oh god, no. There's too many Thors. There's too many everything.
I like the point defense turns, actually. There's not enough Mutalisks anymore to eat up that energy real fast, so these are driven back immediately.
Back to Roaches? You actually didn't cull his tank count that much, believe it or not.
Yeah. There's tanks down here to the south. There's tanks here in the middle.
Like, where does he find the supply? Of course, he did give away SCVs. I mean, well, he's down to 36, but still, that seems like a lot of tanks for how many Thors and Ravens he has.
Before we forget as well, let's not forget, the Ravens are still effective against Roaches.
That's true.
It's not like these become ineffective due to the tech swap. I mean...
They're ineffective right now because they don't have any energy. But...
That's true. But given enough time, waiting too long...
Yeah. These are, you know, tech switching, awesome idea. Great way to take care of a mech player. Not fast enough and not the right tech switches, I feel.
Right? That's what I feel. It's the rate at which he tech swaps. Because he disengages and it's like, oh, here we are a minute later with a different set of units.
Yeah. It's just, and there's no constant pressure either. Like the mutas couldn't consistently go all around the map. They're not doing what Swarm Hosts can do. I mean, it sucks that you have to use Swarm Hosts, for some players really, really, really hate, like, their, like, principles are against Swarm Hosts. But it's something you gotta do, especially if that Roach Hydra Viper attack didn't, you know, end the game when you wanted it to.
Madam, you shall not compromise my integrity with these dirty units. Well, the nice thing for Revolver to look forward to is this is game 1 in a best of 3.
That's something to look forward to. Are you sure?
I say that a little bit sarcastically, of course, but you know, guys, there's a lot of different paths we could take with this too. Right now, we haven't seen a single Ultralisk made. We haven't seen any Broodlords invested in. We haven't seen any Swarm Hosts. There's a lot of different ways you can handle this tank composition as far as tech swaps go, but Revolver's kind of forcibly limited himself to 2, where he's been going Roaches into Mutalisks into Roaches into Mutalisks, and if we're going to be 100% honest, these are 2 things that can work, but not in the way he's been utilizing them.
Yeah, and you know, the Roach tech switch right here is just I don't even know. It's like far too late for Roaches to be effective.
If this was more Thors than tanks, I would actually think Roaches would be effective.
Even then, with the Raven combo, like I don't think they would. Roaches just they're a layer unit, obviously.
Well,
their DPS isn't that high.
You can't really scoff against low tech units, though. You know, regarding Marines, for example, they've got their situations. They're cheap, they're quick, they're great for a remax. But being your main army composition, 36 minutes in the game, you're right, not the best choice.
I always wondered, like, if Goody had ever pushed out, which he hasn't, just keep that in mind. Yeah. If he had ever pushed out and, like, lost, like, about half of his army, I always wonder, like, sometimes seems to be a scenario where mass lings would actually do the most amount of damage because they don't build Hellbats anymore.
Right?
But I've never seen anyone actually try, so I don't know how badly it would actually go.
No, you've got 11,000 resources. Make spine crawlers. Make spore crawlers. Don't just give away your drones. These are the 32 drones he made earlier. I'm just saying, like, okay, he actually killed a refinery at the cost of almost 30 workers. That's cool.
You could have stolen that, all right?
He could have built on top of it after it died. All right, this clears up the armor composition. So we've got Vipers, we've got Hydralisks, we've got Roaches. This is an army that can fight Goody in the middle of the map, away from turrets and away from his defensive lines. But Goody, he's not going to move out anytime soon. And Revolver, I feel like a big portion of this game, I scream like, dude, just play patiently. He seems so desperate to get stuff done, and it just throws away his army time in and time out.
Can you imagine, like, I've never seen a Zerg actually do this. Even when they go Swarm Host, they still try and trade out somewhat, but it's like both players doing absolutely nothing. It would just be the most terrible game ever.
Just both playing patiently, like, you move first. No, you move first.
Oh god.
Well, actually, if we're gonna be quite frank, if Goody, if Revolver was playing patiently, then Goody would be the one who pushes out. In StarCraft 2, nobody likes playing passively. Goody's probably the most passive player, granted, but there we go. Things like this: abducts, picking off Thors, picking off tanks. Granted, at the cost of Roaches, because this has been handled very awkwardly, but still, this is the sort of stuff I like to see, rather than diving in and throwing your whole army away for a small amount of units. Still no infestors, by the way, no fungals. And look at this air army. Every time it moves, it clumps.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's really easy to say, like, just do fungal growth, and there's Zerg players out there who are shouting, well, the tanks will zone out the infestors. What a bad idea. But that's not always going to be the case. Again, we see some things dive forward, you put a fungal down on a couple of Hydralisks move forward, they kill a Raven. Slow little moves that get you really back into this game. Because right now, Revolver is quite far behind.
Even the god of passive Raven play, known as the Villo, complains that sometimes ZVT just comes down to if you can get a good fungal.
Yeah.
Like, he literally will complain about that because that sometimes happens. The Vikings get too far ahead, the Ravens get too far ahead.
Yeah, it's not
and your game ends.
And the thing is, if you focus your army on the sky instead of the ground, then they make Swarm Hosts. If you focus your army on the ground, then they could go for air. Goody's got this nice composition of both right now, and I kind of feel like, and this is so stupid, I'm not even saying like a big investment, make like 4 Broodlords. Just start slowly sieging them up. Use the siege splash damage against your opponent type thing.
Yeah, I mean, because at the very least, you're going to force them to choose either potential fungals or kill the Broodlords.
Right, and if the Vikings dive forward for the Broodlords, that's when you fungal them, when they're out of position. No Vikings left in the field, make Corruptors, kill the Ravens. I mean, these are all...
something.
I know it just sounds like theory crafting, guys, but I've combination seen this happen on a pro level. I've played it on an amateur level. Mech has got weaknesses, but it just feels like a lot of Zerg players, I don't know, lose their minds. Don't know how to deal with this. 7 Vipers, by the way?
Yeah, that's a lot of Vipers.
What?
I don't know what he's gonna do with it. A lot of abducts, I suppose. But yeah, there are some Zerg players that just look like they make mech look impossible. Like, you should never ever do mech, and then they're the ones that make look mech like great and fantastic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what Revolver is doing right now.
I mean, there's some timing too I wish that would have been hit so far this game. Ooh, he's just gonna take these hits like a champion. Okay. I mean, the Overlord drops. That was a really cool idea, and that should have really happened when Goody was more like 150 supply, rather than after he was max, building up this massive bank, sitting behind 5 bases.
Yeah. Yeah, again, at the speed of which he tech switches or does things is just too slow.
Okay, so here we go. We got some abducts. They pulled them into the Hydralisk. Unfortunately, as we see, there's so many Vikings that the Vipers will be picked off, which is why this is an odd choice to see.
You know what is also just so infuriating for Revolver right now is that the missile turrets not only are zoning out the Vipers and helping out against any potential Mutalist switch, but they're also helping out against like the Sim. They're like the Sim City of Goody right now. They're not barracks, but they're still enough to mess up the AI every once in a while for a Hydralisk or a Roach.
Okay, I gotta figure it out. Hang on. You know how you beat Ravens?
Well, those are pretty
good.
Oh
my god, no! Everything on the ground's about to die, though! The entire army of Revolver gets completely carpet bombed with a ton of secret missiles, but he killed a lot of the Ravens. A lot of the Ravens just went down. Not 1 or 2. There's only 3 remaining.
Oh my god, the resources lost is insane.
It's horrible to look at. It's been double this whole time.
It is consistently double. Like, Revolver hasn't gotten like to triple, but still.
Dude, but no, here's what I'm saying. So, here's how you beat Ravens, right? Neural and SCV. Build a command center. Slowly tech up to Ravens.
Your own Ravens, because that is,
right?
you know, that's TVT in a nutshell.
Right?
It's late game TVT.
More drones being sacrificed. Blood for the Blood God! The Planetary Fortress actually picks up quite a few of these. That high-sec auto-tracking.
Also good scouting information.
Yeah, I guess we want to call it that. He's throwing away a lot of workers. I think he's recognized that the map's pretty much mined out, and he's not going to be taking another base anytime soon.
Metabolic boost! Is he gonna think what I'm thinking? Like, just like, at last-ditch effort, just try and swamp with lanes?
The 44-minute metabolic boost, standard CVT. No, you know what this is for? Look at the gas. There's none left. Every geyser's expired.
Because, yeah.
This is quite literally his only option. The fact that it's come down to this. You know what I'm surprised about, actually? We're in 44 minutes, but it's still not fully mined out. This is a scenario where you would have expected both players to be like empty, running on dry. Goody's dropping like 1,000 mules right now. But that's not the case, because it took him so long to take his own gold.
Who was it? Was it Beastie Cutie that we cast on a habitation station with like the point defense drones and the turrets?
No, that was Cross, and that was so cool.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I don't think
that's
that would be effective here, though. I think a big part of
much different.
Yeah. Just a quick story, I guess, guys. Cross versus Slivko on Habitation Station. The VOD's on YouTube. Go watch it. It was actually really cool. Slivko, of course, mined out his side of the map, just as kind of a spoiler, but it's still cool to watch. And he had nothing to do. He had a ton of swarm hosts. Cross didn't really have a lot of tanks. He couldn't really deal with the swarm host too effectively. So he started throwing down like 100 point defense drones and auto turrets to fight back the locust waves from his Ravens, rather than diving in with secret missiles. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my god, middle of the map is all the spine cars repositioning right now. I can't help but wonder like to what avail this will serve, though. It's
a slow push of spine crawlers.
Like, if Goody was also only on minerals, if Goody didn't have a gas bank behind this, these sort of moves make sense, right? But Goody has a gas bank behind this. He's still mining brand new gas.
Yeah, and there's like, unless you literally push with the spine crawlers, it's not like a 5-minute spine crawler rush. The tanks will take care of them. I don't know what he's trying really to do. Maybe like
I think it's just desperation in Revolver. He's made a lot of weird choices this game, and none of them have really worked out for him. The tank lines are covering the other tanks too. SCVs being sacrificed. Get them, boys. I'd say valuable scouting information, but he's got so many orbitals constantly scanning this whole game. 12 orbitals. We've just been hearing that sound in our ears every time he goes, yep.
Good one.
Right? How good is that impression? I was pretty proud of it. Whatever. No, spine crawlers, unfortunately, are awkwardly... I don't know what they're doing, quite frankly.
I think...
Last bit of gas, by the way. Level 2 melee upgrades for melee... I don't think he has adrenal glands for these legs. Nope.
No.
Roach is trying to come forward here. He's trying to split. There's so many secret missiles going off, though, everywhere. Combined with tank volleys. But whatever ground Revolver gains right now is not worth it. Because if we're gonna be honest, look at Goody back at home. If there is
Queens. The Queen Brigade is coming.
Okay,
That's what he's using his minerals on.
7 queens is cool. What I was just thinking was actually a transfuse on a single Ultralisk. That sort of spiel would have been fantastic at some point in this game, but I think the problem remains if he does go for Lings, if he goes for 3,000 minerals versus Lings or Queens or whatever, Goody can still just make Hellbats, right? Like, he doesn't have any now, but it's not like he can't make any in a heartbeat.
The Lings would literally have to end the game in under a minute.
Right? The ultimate clock is thrown down. Point defense drones keep these Vikings alive, although they are getting away from the point defense drones. It's a bit irrelevant because all they have to do is kill that last Viper. Revolver's game coming to an end, guys. The Panzer General himself with all these tanks. If you don't know why he has that name, you know now. 126 Zerglings! An entire bank of 3,000 minerals being invested into these.
I want to see him max out on it, though. You need twice that amount to max out.
Right. But
Disappointing.
still, when have you ever seen 126 in the production tab at the same time?
Look how good they are, though! Look how good they are! They already did so much more damage than Revolver's ever done.
He's blinding clouding the tanks too. This is so painful to watch. GG is called. Goody, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take game number 1. Disgusting.